Namaskar, I'm Lee, and I welcome all of you to the first video in our CSAT Sherlocking series. And in this video, we're going to discuss a very basic, simple, pragmatic strategy of how to ensure that CSAT doesn't hold you back from appearing in mains. So before we begin, I just briefly talk about my attempt cycle. For those of you who are watching my videos, you already know I have been in the cycle for 5 attempts now. I started attempting the exam in 2018. That was my first attempt. Then 19, 20, 21, and 22. Recently, the result for means 2022 were declared, and I was fortunate to find my name in the list of successful aspirants. So I'd be appearing in the interviews really soon. My score in CSAT has been really good over all my past 5 attempts. The score has ranged from 120 to 150 over the last 5 years. And I have consistently followed the same basic pragmatic strategy that has enabled me to make sure that CSAT never held me back. Before we start analyzing this 2022 CSAT paper, let me just discuss that overarching strategy that I keep talking about that has helped me tremendously and also has helped a lot of my friends over the past 5 years. So the strategy is pretty simple. Number one, I prefer to focus on low-hanging fruits. So I don't spend a lot of time on questions that I realize are a time sink. I see that there are a total of 80 questions. Each question carries the same mark, same score, which is 2.5. So I just try to find out, and overall you have to score 66.66. So in essence, you have to score 27 net correct. What that means is pretty simple. So let's say you're attempting 50 questions, and let's say 32 of them are correct, 18 are incorrect. Your net correct in this case is 32 minus 18 by 3, which is 32 minus 6, which is 26. And in this case, you would fail to clear the CSAT qualifying score. The net correct score that you should have in CSAT in order to clear the exam is 27, around 27. At 26, your score translates to around 65, which is less than 66.6. So my strategy is fairly simple. I focus on low-hanging fruits. I know each question is worth the same mark. So focus on low-hanging fruits. I don't let difficult questions be a time sink in the examination hall. Then I attempt questions from all the 3 segments. There are 3 segments in the CSAT. One is comprehension, because I've seen a lot of people not paying attention to comprehension. And I don't get overtly attached to quant because I know there are very difficult questions in the examination. Sometimes I try to touch them once. I try to get a feel of the logic which is behind the question within 30 seconds. If within the first 30 seconds, I can't make a headway into solving the question, I leave it altogether for the time being. And also LR. LR questions are pretty straightforward. They take a lot less time to solve. Comprehension, by and large, is pretty straightforward. 90% of the questions are straightforward. So my target area is comprehension and LR, and I target only low-hanging fruits from quant. So number one, low-hanging fruit. I try to at least go through all 80 questions, at least one, so that I don't lose out on easy questions. And number 3, I attempt the paper in 3 iterations. In the first iteration, I only touch or only attempt low-hanging fruits so that my first priority is get to 27 net correct. After that is taken care of in the first iteration, if you have analyzed even past 3 years CSAT papers, you would get to 27 within the first iteration. Then I target some moderately difficult questions that I know are out there to be solved, but they take slightly longer time, let's say around 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And then in the final lap, let's say I have 10 to 15 minutes left. Instead of just sleeping in the examination hall, I try to attempt those, bouncer questions too. And if I could solve 2-3 bouncer questions, that is more than enough in the examination hall. Across all the last 5 attempts, I have attempted between 65 to 70 questions fairly easily, and my hit rate is over 80%. So my score roughly translates between 120 to 150. You don't even need to hit that score. With this strategy, if you practice it over last 3 years previous questions, you would get over 80 without a doubt. There is no two opinions about it. So as I spoke, there are 3 components to the CSAT paper: comprehension, quant, LR. In the first initial part of the series, we're going to focus on comprehension because that is the most ignored component. Because people think that you need to have high order, language skills in order to solve comprehension questions. That is not at all the case. I have analyzed the past questions from 2013 to 2021 essentially exhaustively, and I have seen a pattern emerging over and over again. And the entire idea with this series is to speak about that pattern with you. Of course, I don't expect you to agree to all of my opinions that I present in the series. You feel free to have a difference of opinion with me, but be rest assured, with enough iterations of going over previous questions, you would concur and you would come to the same realization that I'm sharing in these in the series with you. Right. So let me lay down the very basic principles that enable me to get over 80% hit rate in comprehension questions. Number one, know that passages won't say anything nonsensical. That is the first thing you should keep in mind. Won't say anything nonsensical. So the dictum of following common sense works like a charm even in CSAT comprehension questions. Commonsensical approach works. Number two, since the CSAT exam or this exam is a whole part of a selection for civil servants, passages won't be overtly critical or unreasonably critical of the state. This is the general pattern which I have observed over the past 10-11 years of paper. And finally, as I keep saying, common sense will take you to places, general awareness will take you to places, which means that extreme statements are incorrect, or negative statements are incorrect. And as they say, the proof of the pudding lies in eating. So as and how we move forward, these principles would get internalized, because when you see them at play, even your belief would get affirmed in these principles. All right. So how do I approach these questions? Before I even attempt these questions, before I even read the comprehension, I just go through the options first. And then commonsensically, I try to pick a preferred option. In 8 out of 10 cases, I could see the preferred option. After picking up the preferred option, I very quickly, in 30 seconds, read through the comprehension. Out of these, 8 out of 10 cases, out of these 8 times, around 7 times the answer that I picked in the first iteration is the correct one. I quickly mark it, move on to the next question. There are some odd cases that we'll observe sometimes when, after reading the comprehension, you realize that the answer is different to the one I initially thought. And then you very, very confidently, you could mark the answer which is most appropriate after your reading of the comprehension and then move on. There are some ambiguous questions, as always. Even in this paper, there are 2 ambiguous comprehension questions that I incorrectly marked in the examination hall. After thorough analysis, even while sitting at home, I realized I could not have marked them correctly at all. I don't understand why the answer was given what it was given, but That is the nature of the game. You don't have to have 100% hit rate. If you follow this strategy diligently, be rest assured, you would very easily pocket 80 marks, from the entirety of the paper across the 3 sections. So CSAT won't let you down. And of course, the more you practice with more and more iterations, you would get a more intuitive feel of what the right answer is. There is no shortcut to that route. You will need to practice extensively, but be rest assured, these techniques, these heuristics work like a charm, right? So enough of technical jargon. Let's cut to the chase and let's analyze some questions. Let's look at the first question. So as I said, before I read the comprehension, I read the options and then I try to pick up a preferred option. So the question is, which one of the following statements best reflects the most critical inference that can be made from the passage? So first is, low intensity light has more adverse effect on plants as compared to high intensity light. B is, light pollution can have a permanent adverse impact. C says white light is better for flowering of plants as compared to light. And D says it is an important not only for plants but for animals too. I think for people who have seen my Sherlocking Prelims 2022 analysis series, you would find a similar element in this question. This statement is of the form, this, not only this. More often than not, whether it is CSAT, whether it is GS1, these kind of statements are incorrect. And I had that confidence because I thoroughly analyzed previous questions. So I don't prefer this. Statement A and statement C are comparative. Again, my experience tells me that comparative statements are more likely to be incorrect. C is generic, D is generic. So before I read the comprehension, I already have a preferred option, which is option number B. Light pollution can have a permanent adverse impact. So generic statement, A is comparative, C is comparative, D is of the form this, not only this, right? But I'm open to changing my mind after reading through the comprehension. So this exercise of preferring, one option out of the 4 takes me 20 seconds. Within 20 seconds, I have a preferred option in mind, option number B. Now I will take 30 seconds to a minute in going through the passage and then affirming, whether the option that I picked is that the most appropriate option to go with. Or, maybe I'll find a keyword in the comprehension which tells me that one of the other 3 is the correct answer. Let's go over the passage very quickly once. So passage says, researchers simulated street lighting on artificial grassland plots containing bee aphids, sap-sucking insects at night. Okay. They were exposed to 2 different types of light, a white light similar to newly commercial and an amber light similar to sodium street lamps. The low intensity amber light was shown to inhibit rather than induce flowering. The number of aphids was also significantly suppressed under the light treatment due to the limited amount of food available. Now, statement number B relates to this part of the statement, the low intensity amber light, right? I could make that connection with the comprehension. B makes sense. It doesn't, the passage doesn't compare low intensity light with high intensity light. So A is unambiguously incorrect. It doesn't speak about the impact of white light on the flowering. You didn't see that comparison at all. So C is also unambiguously incorrect. And again, I don't see any logical corollary or correlation of D, even after reading the comprehension. So you see, I have 2 or 3 reasons of preferring B over the other options. I would reiterate, first, I would try to find a preferred option without reading the comprehension. The preferred option would come from the application of the heuristics that have been developed by exhaustive analysis of previous questions, which is that, mostly commonsensical options are going to be correct. B is generic. A and C are comparative, more likely to be incorrect. D is of the form this, not only this, which also is more likely to be incorrect. And I am using the word more likely because there will be situations in the off cases where they'd be correct. We'd also see those cases very shortly, right? And that is why I mark B. and that turns out to be the right answer, right? We had to spend a significant amount of time in the first question so that we get the knack of how I approach. In the questions to follow, we just pace up a little bit so that we're able to complete at least 8 questions, 8 comprehension questions in this video. Let's go to question number 2. Question number 2 says, again, I won't read the passage first. I will read through the options. Options are on the basis of the passage given above, the following assumptions have been made. Which of the above is valid? Sustainable production of India is impossible. This is an extreme statement. कोई भी passage में 99 out of 100 times won't speak of an extreme connotation. So I would very confidently eliminate one. We will also, I never mark an option without reading the comprehension. So when we read the comprehension very swiftly, very quickly, you would see that, it hasn't, the author hasn't used the word impossible. And so I eliminate one very confidently. Now 3 and 4 are correct because they are there in both the options. So I'll just have to look at the validity of 2. 2 says monoculture of horticulture crops hampers the survival of insects. I'm not sure. I mean, I can't, have a judgment about statement number 2 unless I read through the passage. So I'm going to hold on. 3 and 4 are correct without a doubt. So I'll just start reading. And I'll also be open to looking for the word impossible. Maybe it is there out in the open. Maybe my heuristic is wrong. It'll be reaffirmed once we read through the passage. So passage says approximately 80% of all flowering are pollinated by animals, including birds and mammals. But the main pollinators are insects. Pollinator is responsible for providing with a wide variety of food and plant-derived medicine. At least 1/3 depend upon pollination. Bees are the most dominant taxa when it comes to pollination. Crucial is pollination is an essential service, result of intricate relationship and reduction of loss of either effects. Effective pollination requires resources. Now have a look. The author doesn't talk about the fact that it is impossible without diversity. And again, it's an extreme statement. It is never going to be correct. Take my word for it. So 1 still stands eliminated. The moment 1 stands eliminated, A and C stands eliminated, which validates 3 and 4 unambiguously. I don't see the keyword monoculture anywhere. You won't see the term monoculture anywhere. It is missing. So again, fairly confidently, I would prefer D over B. Again, turns out to be the right answer. Right? So the methodology is pretty clear. Read through the options first and try to find a preferred option. You find the preferred option by using the heuristics, which are developed based on exhaustive analysis of previous questions, and then read through the comprehension passage, look for commonsensical options, look for eliminate extremish options, look for word associations. Let's look at question number 3. Question number 3 says, which of the following statements best reflects the crux of the passage? So it says development of regional climate models helps in choosing climate smart agri practice. Okay, I don't know. B says heavy dependence on groundwater resources can be reduced by adopting dry land cropping system. Could be. C says climate changes increase the criticality of water resources while simultaneously threatening it. I still don't have a preferred option until now. D says climate changes cause the farmers to adopt unsustainable livelihoods and risky coping strategies. I don't have a preferred option at all. So the heuristics don't help me in this question. But now I have an understanding of the keywords that are being used in these 4 options, and I'll see if I could find word association while going through the passage. Once you so pause the video, go through the passage yourself. You will not find any correlation with respect to climate models, development of regional climate models, with respect to choosing climate smart agri practices, or so because instead in the first line it speaks about using regional climate models, but doesn't speak about choosing climate smart agri practice. That is missing. So in all likelihood, A is not the answer. Again, B, dry land cropping systems is absent. So you can fairly confidently eliminate B. C speaks about water resources, and the passage talks about the impact on hydrological cycle, right? Leads to impact on hydrological cycle. So I can until now see a direct correlation of option number C with one of the lines in the given passage. And again, I don't see an explicit correlation of option number D with the given passage. So in this case, using word association, why? C speaks about the fact that climate change increases the criticality of water resources while simultaneously threatening it. This line says these climatic shifts will have an impact on hydrological cycles in the region, lead to more surface runoff, and affect groundwater tables, which is directly related. So I'm going to mark again C in a question like this, which turns out to be the right answer. So this two-pronged strategy of first going through the options and then finding a preferred option, failing which, or even if you have a preferred option, then reading through the passage brings significant dividends in comprehension questions. But sometimes, every heuristic fails. And that could be seen in question number 4. I'm not at all convinced with the answer which is given in the key. But again, that is life. You will never agree with the examiner 100% of the times. So you'll have to give yourselves the leeway to be significantly above cutoff to prepare for, situations like these. So let's read through the question first. Question number 4 says, on the basis of the passage, the following assumptions have been made. Which of the assumptions are valid? BPA may alter embryonic development in vivo. Generic statement, I don't have a strong reason to negate it. Let's see. 2 says biochemical and cell-based assays are useful in finding out treatments for pollution-induced diseases. Of course, why not? I can't make a judgment about it unless I read the comprehension. 3 says embryonic stem cells could serve as a model to evaluate the physiological effects of environmental policies. Could serve, again, a soft generic statement. So 1 and 3 are really likely to be correct. 2, I'll have to correlate with the comprehension. So let's read through the comprehension very quickly. Pause the video, read through the comprehension in 30 seconds. You'll find that, in the second line, they say that they used a combination of biochemical cell-based assays to examine gene expression profile, differentiation of mouse embryonic stem cells upon treatment with BPA, compound known to cause diseases. So that tells me that 2 also is related to this information which is given in the comprehension. And that is why I very confidently marked D, which turned out to be the incorrect answer according to UPSC's key. According to UPSC's key, the answer in this question is option number C. According to UPSC key. I still am not convinced as to why 2 is not one of the assumptions which is made in the comprehension. If this question were to come again in the examination hall, I'm going to stick to my heuristic and I'm going to still mark D, because I know that this method gives me the correct answer 9 out of 10 times, and I'm willing to take that hit, in the odd case like this question. If any of you have a counter argument, if any of you have a better way to approach question number 4 to arrive at the right answer on logical basis, not just because UPSC has given the answer now, just because of that you want to come to see it. Don't give me a logic on those lines. If you have a better argument, please feel free to comment and share your history. So you can see in the first 4 questions, we have gotten to the right answer in 3 of those instances, which is a good enough hit rate. Right? The next comprehension question is question number 11. Let's discuss 4 more questions. Question number 11 says, on the basis of the passage, the following assumptions have been made. Fig trees can often be keystone species, can often, again, a generic statement. I don't have a strong enough reason to negate it. So I'm going to hold. And also, there is no option which says all of the above. So at least one has to be incorrect. 2 says fig trees can grow where other large woody species cannot grow. Again, a comparative statement based on my experience, more likely to be incorrect. But still, I will hold on and I will read through the passage first, just to be sure. Statement number 3. Sacred trees can have a role in biodiversity conservation. Again, another generic statement, more likely to be correct. So I am moving towards a preferred option, which is D. And 4 says fig trees have a role in the seed dispersal of other tree species. Again, sounds like a generic statement. So I am already preferring an option, which is option number D, but I won't mark D before reading through the comprehension. You can pause the video. You can quickly within 30 seconds to 45 to 60 seconds go over the passage, and you will see that it says that are considered sacred in India. They provide food for wildlife when other resources are scarce and support a high density. So which means that they have so they can be a keystone species and they can have a role in biodiversity conservation. It is clear from the words given in the comprehension passage. And then it says that under favorable microclimate, plenty of seedlings would grow around fig trees. So 4 also is correct. So our initial assumption turns out to be correct. D is the correct option. If there were an option, the confusion would have arose if there was an option which says 1, 2, 3, 4. In that case, I would have inclined to prefer 1, 2, 3, 4, because there is an indirect correlation of statement number 2, which even though is comparative, in the first line you can say that the line says fig trees are considered sacred and are common in agricultural and urban landscapes where other large trees are absent. So indirectly 2 can be connected to it, but there's no option which says 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 is less likely to be correct as compared to, so 3, 4 and 1 are unambiguously correct, and that is why I prefer D. And that is why I say in comprehension there is always a level of ambiguity. With more and more practice of previous questions and the official answer key, your mindset and your intuition will get more aligned to the way the commission is thinking. So that is my take on it. I marked D, again turned out to be correct. Let's look at question number 12. Question number 12 says, consider the following. So there are 6 terms. And the question is, which of the above farming practices can be compatible with agroecology as implied by the passage? Okay. Again, isme to you can not have a preferred option without reading through the passage at all. So just focus on word association. Just pause the video very quickly within 30 to 60 seconds, read through the passage. Once you do that, you would realize that the keyword hydroponics is entirely absent. It doesn't speak about hydroponics at all. And vertical farming, the keyword is absent. The moment you eliminate 3 and the moment you eliminate 6, you are only left with one single option. So again, this is another heuristic that I very liberally follow. Focus on elimination than on accepting an option. So unambiguously, it could be said that hydroponics would definitely is not there, and vertical farming also for sure is not there. The moment you eliminate 3 and number 6, the only option left is the option you mark. I marked A, turned out to be the right answer, right? So now you're seeing that even comprehension can easily be dealt with a fair amount of, with a good enough amount of hit rate, with enough practice. I have come to this level because I practice a lot. Every year I at least solve 3 years worth of papers before going in the examination hall. So practice will take you to places. 2 more questions to go. Question number 13 says, either best reflects the most critical inference. So computers are not completely safe, are not completely, could be. 2 says, company producing the software do not take cyber security seriously. It's a judgmental statement. So in my understanding, less likely to be correct, but I'd be open to reading the comprehension first. C says, stringent data security laws are needed. Sounds like a positive statement, sounds like a contextual, contemporary statement. Could be correct, I'll hold. D says, the present trend of communication will affect our lives in future. Could be, again, I don't have a preferred option. I know for sure that, in all likelihood, B though is not going to be the answer. That is one thing I'm sure of. Between A, C, and D, I don't have a preferred option until now. I'll read through the comprehension now. So, and try to find keywords in the comprehension related to these 3 options. So I'll see computers, you just pause the video and read through the passage in 30 to 60 seconds. You'll see that it says that where does it say? Trustworthy modern car, little evidence. So here in this part says there is little evidence that these gadgets will be any more trustworthy than their desktop counterparts, which is indirectly correlated to statement number A. I don't see the word cyber security anywhere in the passage. So B, though, in all likelihood is incorrect. I don't see data security being spoken about anywhere. And stringent data security, the need for having stringent data law securities. And again, I mean, the fact that, the present trend will affect our lives in future, it is talking about the contemporary context and not about a futuristic context. So A, again, to my eyes, looks more likely because this part of the statement speaks about the fact that even, desktops are not trustworthy, which essentially is another way of saying that computers are not completely safe. It is, again, a soft statement. It doesn't say that computers are not safe at all or computers are completely unsafe. It says computers are not completely safe. So again, using the dictums of common sense and then going to the comprehension passage tells me that A is most likely to be correct. I mark A, turns out to be the right answer. Final question of this is a really difficult question, question number 14. If you want, you can leave questions like these. I attempted it and I was able to mark it correct because my intuition is fairly developed. I have analyzed the previous questions a lot. This, to me, was one of the most difficult comprehension questions in the entire paper, question number 14. So the question says, on the basis of the passage, the following assumptions have been made. Which of the above assumptions are valid? Right? One says people who are obsessed with personal hygiene tend to ignore the community hygiene. This is really, again, another judgmental statement, similar to statement number B. So judgmental statements are less likely to be correct. So one, though, I could very confidently eliminate. The moment I eliminate one, I'm left between B and C. 4 is common. It's a question of whether 3 is correct or 5 is correct. 2 says emergence of MDR germs can be prevented by personal cleanliness. Sounds like a generic statement, but neither of my preferred options have 2. So now I'm getting confused. So I can't make a judgment before reading through the passage. Statement number 3 says entry of market in the domain of hygiene increases the risk of, again, it's a contextual statement. I'll have to read through the comprehension once at least before I could very confidently make a judgment about it. 4 says scientific and micro level interventions are not sufficient to bring down the burden. Yeah, of course, 4 commonsensically is correct. There is no logical fallacy in statement number 4. So I'm inclined to believe that 4 is correct. And 5 says it is community hygiene implemented through public health measure that is really effective in the battle against infectious diseases. It's a really holistic statement. No logical fallacy and no extremist connotation anywhere. So before I read the comprehension, I already have a preferred option. The preferred option is option number, which option? Option number C. Why? 1 is judgmental, so I eliminate 1. 2, I can't be sure. 2 anyway is not there in either of my preferred options. Option number 4 is holistic and 5 is holistic. Before I make that final judgment, I read through the passage, pause the video, read through the passage within, between 45 to 60 seconds very quickly, and you would realize that, here they mention that the entry of the market into this domain has created a false sense of security. So entry of the market doesn't increase the risk of infection, but it creates a false sense of security. So 3 is less likely to be correct, number 1. There is no direct one-to-one correlation. And the final few lines, you would see that they speak about a need of a holistic strategy. So they say that, along with personal hygiene, general improvements in environmental condition, components, clean water, sanitation, market on personal health, overriding negative impact, ecology. So they're speaking about a very holistic strategy, which is directly correlated to statement number 5. And that is why I picked option number C. I would reiterate this question is really difficult. So if at this point in time, if it doesn't add up to you, leave a question like this. I'm sure when you practice more and more questions, and if you were to come back to it again and look at its explanation, it'll make more sense in days to come. So I think, that is about it. That is about the first video. We'll have 2 more videos on comprehension. There are a total of 27 questions. We have analyzed 8 until now. We have, in the beginning, spoken about my approach, my strategy. I have spoken about my credibility, about the fact that I have consistently scored 120 plus, and I have gone until 150. All because I have exhaustively analyzed previous questions, and these heuristics that have been developed based on previous question analysis work like a charm. The proof of the pudding lies in eating. The more you practice, the more you get in sync with the expectation of the commission. That is it from this video. If you have counter arguments, if you have doubts, if you have follow-ups, feel free to engage in the comment section. I'm going to come out with the other 2 videos on comprehension really soon. Thanks a lot for joining. Take care. Bye.